What a beautiful day. Nature's blessed us with sunshine and no rain, and this tent wasn't necessary, but we got it just in case. Like that. Temperature dropped a little bit, but it's beautiful. Before we really start, I want to introduce some of our special people that are here, and then we'll start with some of the talks or whatever. I have to begin with President Dr. Eli Capilouto, who is our president of our university and happens to be a dentist, for most of you probably know that, and his lovely wife over here, Mary Lynn Capilouto, who also is a dentist and was the dean of Alabama, if you didn't know that. So we have some real dental history in our leadership on the whole university here. Then we've got Dr. Bohannon. We're going to hear from Dr. Bohannon, our second dean at the College of Dentistry, and my dean when I entered dental school. Jack Fick, who's over here, he is leading of the class of, he was an officer, and we really call him a president of the class now, of 1967. And it's Jack and Miriam and others here that have really made this happen. It was their idea to do something special, and I thought, this is perfect. We need to be doing this on our 60th anniversary of the beginning of this college, too. Now, we have members of the family of Alvin Morris. And right over here we have those. And so we've got, first of all, Beth. Just raise your hand. There's Beth. And Beth is the daughter of Alvin Morris, our first dean. Let's see, we have, and Beth's husband, Bill. Right there's Bill, next door, okay. And Gabe is here. Here's Gabe, who's the grandson. Jeff Morris, where's Jeff? Right there, in front of me. Jeff Morris, son of Al Morris. We have Bill Esther, who is here, right? Stepson, and we also have Tracy and Samara are here. So these are all family members, and it's so nice to have family members of Al with us today, too. So he's up there smiling, hopefully, down at this through the sunshine and all like that. So what we want to do is I want to have, just to begin to come up here, and I'm going to ask President Capilouto to begin us off with a little greeting, if that's okay.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you all for being here. And I speak today on behalf of my wife and myself, and we're filled with gratitude to participate in this. I know Mary Lynn and I were fortunate during our careers to have them rich and filled with meaning and purpose. Mary Lynn became a dean, I became a dean, and somehow became a president. But oftentimes we would ask ourselves, when we were realizing how fortunate we were, how did all this happen? And for us, it was mentors. And mentors like Al Morris. Now, Al Morris and his generation, which included a gentleman by the name of Joe Volker in Alabama, who I think recommended Al for this deanship here, and people like Harry Bohannon, that generation, they mentored the mentors that Mary Lynn and I had. Scotty McCallum was one. And they were giants to us. I had the good fortune to apply for a fellowship with the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and Al Morris was on the selection committee. And I think that's part of the reason that, in lobbying by some of his colleagues who were in that generation of outstanding mentors, I was selected. Mary Lynn applied for an oral epidemiology fellowship because both of these were in Boston, and she got to work with Harry Bohannon. So this is a small world. And I just want to say thank you to the family, the good fortune that Mary Lynn and I have known in our careers. We attribute to Al Morris and others like him. And I know there are many, many other people that share that good fortune. So on a day like this, I think it's a Vietnamese proverb that says, when you're enjoying the fruit, remember those who planted the tree. So it's that kind of day. Thank you all very much.
Great. So I have the privilege of reminding us of why we're here. First of all, I got to thank the class of 1967, who had all the energy and such to put this together. So thank them. And when I heard about this, I was overwhelmed and enthused about the possibility. So we thank each member. You'll hear from Jack in just a bit. So what happened here? And I realized that it's been 60 years. And I realized that to the faculty and staff in College of Dentistry right now, that most of them don't have much of a history. So during our retreat, I talked for about 30 minutes on just the history of our college and why we should be so proud of where we are right now from where this began. So let's go back to 1961. 1961, this building went up. They said this part here should be dentistry. There was some things going on with a little bit of battle, and probably Harry might talk a little bit more about this. But there were some ideas, should we have this or not? So there was political battles, there was professional battles that went there, but it was to be. So a search committee was put together, and Al Morris was selected from the search committee in 1961, and he joined here. And as Al came here, he was given some tasks. He was given 4 tasks. The first task was acquire a faculty. So acquire a faculty, go out there and find some of the best faculty, which he did. Furnish that building. There are 6 floors. It was completely open with nothing in there else. You got to furnish the building. You got to develop a curriculum. There wasn't a curriculum. Well, there was some standard curriculums, but that's not exactly what they wanted to do. And recruit a class. And by the way, you've got 1 year to do that. He's a 33-year-old dentist from the University of Pennsylvania, and he's going to do all those tasks in 1 year. And the pressure was on to do that. So he began by gaining about 5 other individuals who were really unbelievable thinkers and innovators, one of which was Dr. Harry Bohannon, excuse me. And so in that group of 6, they said, what are we going to do to make this college something special? And Al brought with him the triad. And we still go by that triad right now. I said, what makes up a good dentist? Well, the dentist needs to be biologically oriented to understand how the biology affects the whole body. Got to be technically capable, which was very much in tune with the time at that time, had to be able to technically capable. But then he added a third element that was not in our thought processes in 1960. That's socially sensitive. That this tooth has a body hook to it. And how that person is involved with his and her environment. The social aspect is so important. We still feel today those 3, they call the triad, and you'll see that on the plaque that we're going to reveal in a bit. We still strive to have that kind of a triad with our students. And our students fit that category very nicely. In fact, they have an average of 200 hours of social contact as they apply for our school to make sure that they have within their being and heart what it's like to be a healthcare provider. It's more than just fixing teeth. So they got together and they said, okay, let's develop a curriculum or something. What are we going to do? And the first thing they looked at was the curriculum. And they said, I'm not sure the way I was taught is what I want to teach. Because in 1960, dentists had, of course, 4 years of program, but the first 2 years were just books. The last 2 years were some patients. And I talked to Harry, and Harry said it was in the middle of his 3rd year before he really started seeing patients. How could you teach a student something to do the first year and they don't get to do it until their 3rd year? So Al said, well, we got to have to start a program where we get students involved quicker. And so they developed what's called the diagonal curriculum. So in the first year, a lot of books, but some patients. 2nd year, more patients, less books. 3rd year, a lot of patients, some books, and 4th year, almost all patients. It was called the Kentucky Curriculum. It was published, and it became a widespread change in dental education. Almost every dental school moved to it because it made so much sense. So that was the diagonal curriculum, the Kentucky Curriculum. He also said we want to treat our students as colleagues, which is not where it was like in 1960. We want to treat them as if they're part of the members of the profession already. We're going to call them doctors in front of their patients. We will treat them with respect. And and when people came into this environment, it was quite different. And some faculty couldn't handle that. And Al dismissed them pretty quick because that's not what the school was going to be about. I'd like to think we carry on that same philosophy right now with our students. We have 65 students. We know them well. So we're a small dental school, but we know everybody, and it's really a nice environment. It's a good learning situation like that. We also developed here, Al and Harry, the first oral biology department of oral biology. And we said, what is that? That's understanding that basic biology issue. And so we brought in people who understood the biology and had faculty on that. We developed the first community dentistry clinic. People weren't thinking about community dentistry at that time. So I think we had one of the first, if not the first, community dentistry department. Wes Young was brought in as a public health dentist to be part of that. We actually held the first continuing education classes in this building right here in all the state of Kentucky. Like that. So we started leading on that. So they put together something very, very special. And it was so special that in 1968, December, I think it was 1968, the Journal of Dental Education had an edition totally dedicated to the Kentucky curriculum. And that got out, and people started looking at dental education and say, this is a really good way to teach dentists to be dentists. In fact, at that moment, we were considered the #1 school, the _1 of the second generations of dental schools. A whole new generation of dental schools. So the impact of what Dr. Morris did here just kept going all through the whole dental education. And when you look at the effects right now, you begin to realize how powerful it was at that time. And when Harry joined and the others joined, and then they added additional faculty, all of them were superior faculty, what you start to see is this movement here. And it's just set us in a different position. It's just a wonderful position like that. So we owe a lot to Dr. Alvin Morris for that start. I had a privilege of talking with Harry a little bit here. In fact, we sat down in an hour in my office with the video going. Just wanted to interview him, to listen. I hope you don't mind if I tell him your age. Is that okay? Harry's 95 years old. When I contacted him by phone to see if he could make this, I hadn't talked to him in 50 years. He's in Florida. He's 95. I'm going, I wonder if he's going to be able to come up. And I talked to him. He was energetic and all, want to come and all that. And he paused. He said, well, Jeff, I got to go. I got a tea time. Well, that told me something. And I'll say this. When Harry was 95, he hit an 84. Now, that's pretty darn good. You're supposed to hit your age, right? He had an 84 at age 95. I remember I asked him right away, I said, you sure you weren't 84 when you hit the 95? But that wasn't right. So I asked Harry to just say a few words about things that he remembers here and like that. Harry, would you come up and take your turn?
This thing bend, it's a little tall for me. One long ago, I couldn't have seen over this thing. I want to start by thanking the unusual class of 1967. No class, as far as I know, has been nearly as supportive of the school since they graduated. To a man, they are an unusual group. And I thank them for this tribute that they have arranged for Al. Mr. President, it's long overdue. We tried not long ago to get the school named after Al. I was in a position at that point maybe to have raised significant money. It never got out of the dean's office. There's no way we could ever thank Al Morris for what he did. There's no way dental education internationally can thank him for what he did. This tribute is more than what anybody had done up to this point. All of us as deans that followed him didn't do anything. The faculty didn't do anything. And despite the fact that he became even an executive vice president of the university has never done anything. I will tell you unequivocally that were it not for Al, there is better than a 50-50 chance that none of us would be here today. That this building would be just a wing of the medical school. I take you back to 1961. When we came here, the environment was so hostile that I graduated from the University of Louisville in 1953. The environment was so hostile that even some of my classmates wouldn't speak to me. Well, they didn't speak to me when I was in class either. So the Dental Association, 99.5% were all graduates of Louisville. The Dean of the University of Louisville School of Dentistry, Raymond Myers, one of the finest gentlemen that ever lived, had written an article for the Kentucky Dental Journal saying all the reasons why there should not be another dental school in the state. That amalgamated the dental profession against us. And when we came, the environment was pretty tough. Nobody wanted to have anything to do with the new dental school. I'll go to the fall of 1961. We had signed contracts to equip this building, which was empty when we came. Everything from all the dental equipment to paper clips. We had signed contracts and we had other in the works. We had recruited some of the finest faculty members that we could find. Emmett Kosich, John Mink, I can go down and think, Stan Sachs, Judd Hickey, many of whom went on to be deans of the Shell Robin. They had committed themselves to resign the jobs they had at other dental schools to come join us in developing this new one. Al played a major role in recruitment. We identified people, and he and Arlene had potluck suppers out in the farm on Tates Creek Road. That's the way we recruited. We couldn't afford to take them to restaurants at that time. In fact, if you traveled to UK, you had to have a receipt for everything over $2. There was no way we could do it. Al and Arlene put on dinner after dinner, potluck suppers that we all contributed to, and did it all in their home. We had admitted, this is about January now of '62. We had admitted 10 of the 20 members of the first class. And we had these faculty members lined up, contract signed. And Al got sick. He was deathly ill. He had a severe bleeding ulcer. He lost 25 pounds. His face was as white or whiter than the coat he wore. And he kept going. Ed Pellegrino, who was chairman of medicine, ordered him to go to the hospital, to enter the hospital. He wouldn't do it. Then Ed took another shot at him and said, he begged him to go. He told him, you're going to kill yourself. You're that bad off. Harold Rosenbaum, who was chairman of radiology at that point, was in the hospital with a bleeding ulcer that was not nearly as severe as Al's. We could not figure out, we knew he was sick, we could not figure out why he didn't go in the hospital. He lived on milkshakes that Arlene brought him, milkshakes and Sarah Jane cupcakes. For 2 months, that's all. He couldn't hold anything else down. What we did not know, and what Al did not reveal for at least a year after, was that in January, the university realized they had had a severe shortfall and they were looking for a way to handle the loss of money. It's President Dickey, Vice President A.D. Albright. That's not too tough a problem. We just will hold off opening a dental school for another year. Now, we had faculty members who had resigned other places who were coming. We had students who we'd accepted who were coming. We had contracts we had signed that had to be paid. Al knew that not one of us of the four were capable of dealing with the university. He was the only one, as sick as he was, but he also said he could not show any weakness. Had the Dental Society known that, they had already a plan to go to the legislature in 1962. 35% of the representatives of the legislature were from Louisville or Louisville metro area. They were going to try to get the dental school removed from the university medical center. Now, had that happened, had Al not been able to convince the university administration not to take the step to delay the opening of the dental school, we would have been the laughing stock of dental education. We would have destroyed all the confidence in the faculties that people we were trying to recruit. The dental advisors in all the colleges would have laughed at us. They did when we tried to recruit students. The 10 that we had taken could easily have gotten in other places because they were all outstanding. But what would that have done to the recruiting? And the Dental Society would have gone to the legislature and probably been successful in stopping the dental school at all. It was Al Morris, sick as he was. Arlene Morris kept him alive with milkshakes. That family, Al, Arlene, and all of the kids that sacrificed with their father away a lot and working the 15, 16 hours a day that we were putting in, those people deserve our thanks. And I will say that once again, had it not been for Al sacrificing his life, putting on enough of an argument for the university to change their approach and keep the dental school in that so we could open in 1961, there's a better than 50-50 chance we wouldn't be here today. So, with apologies to Jimmy Durante, thank you, Al and Arlene Morris, wherever you are. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Harry. I didn't know that story until a week ago. but it tells you something about a very, very strong individual who had a mission, and he accomplished it, and that's why we're here. I'd like to now ask Jack to come up. And Jack is, I'm going to say, the president of your class. You've been the leader of the class. I'm sorry? Secretary, but he's the leader of the class. I have to say that. Come on up here, Jack. And Jack is the one that called us and said, let's put something together, and he and Marion and others in the group just made it happen. So thank you. Thank you.
I was going to say something to calm me down, so I'm going to tell you a little story. I had no idea when I was elected secretary in my last year in dental school that it was a lifetime appointment. Plus, unlike a Supreme Court justice, I can't resign, so I got to die here, okay? And one other thing, I'd be amiss if I didn't mention Dr. Dacey as one of the original faculty, since he was my faculty advisor, so I wanted to do that. I'm secretary of the class of '67. Our president, Bill Walton, could not attend due to medical issues. He sends his regrets, his regards, and he's with us in spirit. Dr. Morris was our dean. He was always approachable, accessible, available, and yes, he even played softball with us. Ben Nero, a classmate, tells of talking to other new dentists after he left Kentucky, relating about our educational experience and how our dean played softball with us. These other dentists couldn't believe, one, that the dean was that close to his students that he wanted to play softball with them, or two, we would even want to play softball with the dean. Well, he did, and we did. The triad was the touchstone in our lives as students and continued with each of us through our professional careers. Pre-Dr. Morris, dental students were definitely not treated as junior colleagues. The triad challenged and changed the foundation of dental education. Dr. Morris walked the walk. In a letter 55 years ago, dated May 8, 1967, Dr. Morris wrote, "To the class of 1967, denied the undivided attention lavished upon the firstborn, and not yet benefactor of truly experienced and mature parentage, it is said that the second offspring holds a disadvantaged position in the family structure. While some of you may agree there is no evidence that the class of '67, the second issue of our college, has been in any way compromised. The faculty looks upon your accomplishments with great pride and anticipates your future with complete confidence. You are entering the profession during an eventful period of history. Our nation is engaged in an ever-expanding war. Our profession is engrossed with an ever-increasing challenge as it seeks to provide better care to larger segments of the population. As you enter military service, private practice, or advanced education, you are assuming heavy and heady responsibilities. Much will be asked of you. We take great satisfaction in the knowledge you have so much to give. For your contributions to the development of our college, we offer our thanks. For your demonstrated commitment to excellent and patient care, we offer our respect. For the challenges to which you will address yourself, we offer our assistance. And for the events which we are destined to share, we offer our friendship. Please accept my best wishes for a happy and rewarding future, Alvin L. Morris. Dr. Morris, I believe that you'd be pleased and proud with the accomplishment of our class, your second offspring. We have returned to honor and pay tribute to you for what you have meant to each of us individually, professionally, and personally. What you have meant to this school and the significant role this school has played in the evolution of the education of dental students. In memory of you, Dr. Morris, we have changed the name of our class Memorial Scholarship to the UKCD Class of '67 and Dr. Alvin L. Morris Memorial Scholarship. Thank you.
That is one special class, and the scholarships that they have been giving, I don't know the exact figure, but over $100,000 has been donated to the scholarships, and they've had scholarships for the last number of years for students. So thank you very much, Jack, and the whole class. I've asked Beth Wofford to come up as Al's daughter and just say a word or two if she'd like, and so I'd like to welcome her now.
No way am I going to get through this without getting emotional. First, President and Dr. Capilouto, thank you so much for being here. Dad was absolutely thrilled when he knew you were coming to Kentucky, and he told me some great stories about working together with you, and he was so happy. So it would mean so much to him that you were here. Thank you so much for coming. I am going to get emotional, but I honestly believe that my dad would be incredibly emotional if he were here. So when that happens, that's just channeling my dad. Okay, so in 1961, Al Morris got on a plane bound for Kentucky to be interviewed and subsequently hired as the first dean of the dental school at the University of Kentucky, thereby changing the trajectory of our lives. In later years, he would reminisce, with the idealism of a 33-year-old, I didn't see an empty building without a desk or a chair in sight. I saw a blank canvas on which I could make my mark on the future of dental education. And I think from what we've heard today, he certainly did it. My two older brothers and I were thrilled to move to Kentucky because we knew that everyone here had a horse. By some quirk of fate, within a few weeks of arriving in the Bluegrass, we ended up on a small farm out on Tates Creek Road with a 2-acre paddock. On a dean's salary of $6,700 a year, a little different, isn't it, Dr. Dean Okeson? Dad and Mom scraped together $200 to buy us a pony out of the newspaper. And that's the rest of the story on how one of the top leaders in dental education ended up with all three of his offspring as a professional horseman. Go figure. Throughout the intervening years, with every milestone in our family, Dad would shake his head and say wonderingly, if I hadn't gotten on that plane to Kentucky. This mantra became so much a part of any Morris celebration that it's been passed down through the generations. To this day, nearly a decade after his passing, each time we get together to celebrate any occasion, one of his grandkids will get the biggest laugh by piping up, if Papa hadn't gotten on that plane. On behalf of the Morris family, we would like to express our deepest gratitude to the university, the class of '67, and Dean Okeson for this remarkable tribute to our father. I don't think we fully grasped the scope of Dad's impact on dental education until today. It appears far more lives than we ever could have imagined have been touched when Al Morris got on that plane.
Thank you, Beth. We enjoy the horses here. We're glad you're here with them, for sure. I wanted to say something that when under a tent just like this at our 50th anniversary, 10 years ago, I guess now, I had a chance to see Alfred last time, and I wanted to get a picture, so I put my arm around him and we got a picture. And then when I was blessed and privileged to get the chance to be a dean here, I got that on my desk, the two of us right there, because I sat down in this room and I said, this is the same room that started this whole thing. The walls have been painted maybe a time or two, I don't know, maybe a little different furniture, but I'm honored to sit there. When I see that, I think this is who I've got to emulate. And when people come in and they say, is that your father? And I said, almost. So thank you. So now, the monument that we have, we couldn't put it here. It's already in place. So we're going to have to get up and walk. There wasn't enough room for everybody over there. So we're going to have to get up and walk, and we're going to unveil that right now. So come on up, and we're going to walk right down this pathway here, and we'll be there.